How many of you, like me, grew up going to a Christian church, whether that be Baptist, Methodist, or Pentecostal? Now, most of us know the story of the Reformation, when Martin Luther posted his 95 Theses on the church door in Wittenberg in 1517. But did you know that there were some unintentional consequences to this? Now, you may be thinking, I already learned this in high school. Why do I need to learn it now? Well, it's important as Christians that we understand the root of our religion and how it was formed. What's interesting to note about the Reformation and Martin Luther is that he had no intention of creating his own religion or splitting from the Catholic Church. In fact, according to Andrew Pettigrew in his 2015 book Brand Luther, in 1513 indulgences were far from Luther's mind, and certainly he had no wish to challenge the church in which he was making a promising career. I chose this topic because I find the Reformation fascinating. After taking a course on Reformation Europe, I had to learn more about this important subject. Today, I want to tell you about the three unintentional consequences of Martin Luther posting his 95 Theses. These include the popularization of the printing press, the mobilization of the laity, and the creation of a new religion. First, we're going to look at the printing press and its importance throughout the Reformation. Just how important was the printing press to the Reformation? Well, according to a 2014 article in the Review of Economics and Statistics, cities with at least one printing press by 1500 were at minimum 29 percentage points more likely to be Protestant by 1600. Now, by the time the Reformation really began, books were readily available and they were affordable. Now, Martin Luther understood the impact the printing press was having throughout Western Europe, and although he did not intend this, his writings were widely circulated due to the popularity of the press, and this took his message to the masses. Many of his writings were accompanied by a woodcut. Now, these woodcuts often had caricatures of the Pope and other church officials. They also allowed people who were illiterate to still understand the message that was in the writings. Next, I want to tell you how the laity followed Luther's writings and revolted against the Catholic Church. This attack on the Catholic Church and the establishment by Luther created tense confrontations between the Church and the laity. Some of these tensions often resulted in some type of protest, march, or revolt, and sometimes all-out war. One of these events is the Schilling Uprising in Augsburg in 1524. Then, after the new arrival of a monk, Johann Schilling, he taught a new evangelical way that is associated with the Reformation teachings. Now, eventually, this would lead the town council to throw him out of town. And according to an article from 2017 in the journal Renaissance and Reformation, with a roar, the people demanded Schilling's return. Tempers flared as the crowd swelled and surged to perhaps 1,800. Ultimately, this uprising did not lead to any change, but it does give us a glimpse into the contentious relationship between Catholics and Protestants. Lastly, I'll tell you how Martin Luther had no intention of actually creating a new religion when he set out to write his 95 Theses. In his 2015 book, Brand Luther, Andrew Pettigrew states, having decided on a career in the church, Luther exhibited a determined commitment to institutions that had provided him with significant opportunities. So this gives us a sense that Luther was a devoted Catholic who had no intention of being so critical of the church. Now, in dealing with the revolts and the uprising, Pettigrew points out that more dangerously, from Luther's point of view, they had also begun to clothe themselves in the language of the new evangelical movement. Now, Luther did not want to have any connection with the violence that was going on throughout the region. All he was aiming to do when he wrote his 95 Theses was to bring awareness and possibly reform to the practices of indulgences. So to summarize, the popularization of the press and Luther's writing empowered the laity to take control of their faith, leaving the Catholic Church and following the creation of Protestantism. This invention and popularity of the printing press was crucial to the success of the Reformation, although this was not intended and Luther had not planned for this movement in the first place. But because his writings and the woodcuts that accompanied them were so widespread, the laity began to revolt against the church. Now, Luther started his life as a committed worker for the church, and there was no indication that he would eventually change the course of history. When Martin Luther posted his 95 Theses, he simply wanted to bring awareness to the fact that indulgences were not a biblical teaching and should not be practiced by the church because it was not a factor on a person's salvation. With his utilization of the printing press, the laity felt the need for mobilization against the oppression from the Catholic Church, leading to the creation of a separate religion that most of us follow today.